What's up, Internet? This is Rambling Josh, and today I feel like talking a little bit about a little something that went on this past weekend. You might have heard of. It goes by the name of Blizzcon 2011. It's just a little event. A few people went to it, celebrating everything Blizzard, basically. I don't know if you've heard of Blizzard Entertainment, but I mean, they make some games. So this year, I bought it last year too, but I bought the DirecTV stream thingy, so I was able to watch and listen to everything that went on at this event, and it was pretty awesome. A lot of people figured that it would be pretty awesome. I mean, last year was a little bit lame, just because Cataclysm was virtually out by that point, and I mean people had spent months beta testing everything under the sun. So there's basically nothing new that they could possibly tell us about Cataclysm. Well, I mean, they could have if they really wanted to, but StarCraft 2 had just come out like a couple months earlier, and Diablo 3 was still kind of in the growing stages where there wasn't really a whole lot to talk about. But this year everything was flipped on its head, and it's now the timing just aligns perfectly so that everything is on the verge of coming out, and they just have lots of stuff to tell us. So it was pretty exciting. And of course, the biggest thing that everyone expected was there was the newest World of Warcraft expansion, which I'm probably going to be spending pretty much this entire video talking about. I kind of like this video to be more about BlizzCon and not so much Mists of Pandaria, which is the new expansion. Just because BlizzCon is like a celebration of everything Blizzard. It's not WoWCon, but Mists of Pandaria is definitely the biggest thing that came out of it, and it's probably got the most things to talk about. Before I get into that, though, there is one thing that I definitely want to mention, and that's that they just announced during the opening ceremony. I think even before they announced Mists of Pandaria. They announced this thing called the WoW Annual Pass or something like that. Basically, what it is you commit to a year of game time in World of Warcraft. It doesn't necessarily change your subscription model or anything. You can still pay it monthly or however. But the thing is, you're locked into a year of game time, but you get stuff as a reward. So the big thing is you get Diablo 3 for free. Day 1, 12:01 a.m. release date, you can download the digital client and you don't have to pay a cent for it if you logged into the annual pass. That's pretty awesome. And over in World of Warcraft, you also get what's it called? Tyrael's Charger. It's a new mount. So just a little something extra. And honestly, I think this is all pretty awesome. I mean, I got more excited about this announcement than probably anything else that was coming. Because, I mean, it was the most unexpected, which is probably the biggest reason why I got so excited. But it's also pretty freaking awesome. I mean, a lot of people kind of claim that it's just a desperation move. They've got all these big MMOs coming out in the near future. You got the Old Republic coming out in a couple months at this point. Then Guild Wars 2 probably isn't far behind it. And WoW doesn't really have a whole lot that can kind of compete directly with them. I mean, 4.3 is probably going to be somewhere around the same time as the Old Republic. But, whatever. So a lot of people are looking at this as this is how they catch you. They build up your excitement with 4.3 and this new expansion, and while everyone's all excited about this, they offer you these treats for committing to a year of playing WoW, or at least paying for WoW, and that's how they that's how they get you. And I think there's probably some truth to that, but I mean, to me, I think it's more a matter of rewarding the loyal Blizzard fan. Because, I mean, people play all the... Like, there are so many people out there who play every Blizzard franchise. And, I mean, they've been really big for a while now about kind of cross-pollinating their games. Like, they had the Real ID where you can chat with your friends no matter what game they're playing. Well, no matter what Blizzard game they're playing. And they gave you stuff where, like, you get a collector's edition for one game, it gives you prizes in another game, and crazy stuff like that. And I really like that stuff. And I kind of see this almost as like that on a large scale. It's like, for me at least, and I mean, I'm sure I'm far from the only person. You know, I was going to be subscribed for that year anyways. There's pretty much no question about that. And so I basically, like, I just click a button and I get free stuff. Okay, that's pretty awesome. But anyways, moving on. As I mentioned, the big thing from this BlizzCon was the announcement of Mists of Pandaria, the newest World of Warcraft expansion. And the story behind this one is supposed to be, you know, we've killed Deathwing, or whatever we end up doing with Deathwing. And so the focus for this one is, that's got a lot of people talking, actually, because there isn't really like a main villain for this game. The focus is supposed to be on the conflict between the Alliance and the Horde, which is kind of interesting because it's definitely something that's kind of been missing from World of Warcraft for a while now. I mean, I'm not really one to kind of revel in the, you know, the conflict between the two, but I think it's a neat concept. So the whole idea is the Alliance and Horde are fighting some sort of naval battle, and they stumble upon the island of Pandaria. And then, you know, once they get there, there's this big conflict. Pandaria's got like all these resources and stuff, so each side wants the resources to kind of aid themselves in the war against the other side. So, I mean, I don't know, that's just kind of neither here nor there, honestly. There's not really a whole lot of telling what exactly we're going to be facing in terms of raids, although they did preview a bunch of the new enemy types and stuff like that. Probably the most interesting to me is there's these things called the Sha, which are supposed to be like physical manifestations of negative energy. So I guess the Horde and Alliance conflict is like generating their own raid bosses. They're doing all this fighting, and like these Sha just pop out, and I don't know. All that is really yet to be seen. But I mean, I'm honestly, like, when I first heard the name Mists of Pandaria, when the copyright thing went down, you know, months ago, I was pretty down on the idea. But seeing it now, I'm actually pretty excited about it. I mean, and the big thing for me is that Pandaria is very kind of Chinese Asian inspired, and personally, I love that stuff. I mean, I'm a big fan of like Dynasty Warriors and stuff like that. I just love like the Asian motif, and playing a whole expansion like that. And I mean, these places in Pandaria, they look awesome. Like there's these like giant like forests and big huge mountains with like pagodas on top of them, and like giant farmlands with like the layered rice paddies and stuff like that. It just looks amazing. So I don't really mind the whole Pandaria thing a whole lot anymore. And of course, the other thing that came out of it was that there are going to be both Pandarans and monks. Pandaren, of course, being a new playable race, and monks being a new playable class. So a lot of people were kind of back and forth on whether Pandarans would be playable if Pandaria was the real next expansion. I guess I was kind of one of them, because I kind of wondered, like, how do you make them a playable race? And what, you give it to one side? Do you somehow give it to both sides and they like share this race? That didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me if the focus on this expansion is supposed to be on like the conflict between the two sides. Like, okay, so there's this conflict, but at the same time, each side is going to share a race. But, you know, whatever. So the way they ended up doing it is Pandaren, they start off as a neutral race. They start off level 1, this place, what's it called? The Wandering Isle. Which is pretty cool. It's literally a giant, like it's an island that's a giant turtle. So these Pandaren, they start off on this turtle island. They play through to level 10, and then when they're done with their starting zone, they head off and at that point they choose a faction. You literally choose at level 10, do I want to be Alliance or do I want to be Horde? Which is kind of neat, and I mean it's a way of doing it. I don't know, I mean there's not a whole lot to say about the Pandaren at this point. I think they seem cool enough. I mean, a lot of people complain about like, oh, their racials are terrible and oh my god, they're pandas, what is Blizzard doing? But I mean, I think they're pretty cool. I mean, their models are really good. I can kind of identify, I guess, with the Pandaren ideology of being all like kind of chill and stuff like that. And they love their food, they love their brew, and they're just kind of fun-loving. I think that's a pretty neat. It doesn't really speak a whole lot to their actual gameplay, but I mean, Pandaren is a race, not a class. What can they be? Pandaren, I believe, can be anything except for Death Knights, Paladins, and Druids. I guess they can't be Warlocks either. I thought they could be Warlocks. Whatever. Probably the bigger news is the addition of a new class, the Monk, which kind of goes hand in hand with the Pandaren. But of course, you know, monks, you can be a monk as pretty much any race, actually. Yeah, it looks like any race. I'm not seeing any glaring exceptions. And the Monk has me really excited because it seems like a really interesting class in a lot of different ways. So, I mean, I guess the basics. They can perform any role, so they have a DPS, a tank, and a healing spec, so to speak, although the talent system is being completely revamped, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And they use leather, so they should fill a decent itemization role in that, you know, they share agility leather with druids and rogues, and they can use caster leather to heal with. But more importantly, like, the way they do things is really interesting. Their basic mechanic is supposed to be chi, which I think it actually works. I haven't actually played with it or anything, or even really watched any gameplay videos, but I think it's supposed to work a lot like a rogue, kind of mixed with a balanced druid. So they have chi, which is basically energy, and you use that to use what they call jabs. So those are like your combo builders, and then every time you use a jab, you generate energy, or what's the proper term for it? Like, it doesn't really say, but you generate like these points, like spirit points or whatever. And there's two different kinds of them. There's light and there's dark. And you use those to do like finishers. And then I guess Blizzard said that they're thinking that for healing they would, when you switched your healing stance, you would lose your chi bar and gain a mana bar or something, which is kind of lame. I mean, but I guess it's kind of a necessary evil for balancing. But really, like, well, okay, hold on a sec. Before I go too far into my thoughts, the other big thing is that at the moment monks don't have an auto attack, so they're focusing a lot more on press button, stuff happens, but when you're not pressing a button, like, stuff isn't happening. And I think that's probably inspired by, there's a lot of other games coming out these days that are more action oriented, like even just like Guild Wars 2, where it's like there is no auto attack, and I think it's probably inspired by that, and I think it's a cool thing. I mean, it just puts a lot more focus on your performance, and I like the sounds of that. Okay, so now the biggest thing that I'm excited about for the monk is the healing. They haven't really talked a whole lot about how the other roles perform yet. I think they gave the names of the others. The tanking role is called the Brewmaster, and they're supposed to tank by like having alcohol dulling their sense of pain or whatever, which is it's kind of funny, I guess, but they haven't really said how it works mechanically. DPS is supposed to be it's called the Windwalker, and that's just kind of whatever. They haven't said anything about that, but healing sounds really interesting to me. So it's kind of lame that you drop the chi bar, but I guess it's gotta be that way. You need a mana bar to really be able to be balanced properly in unison with the other healers. So, what they said about the healing is that they want the monks to heal while also kind of doing damage, like not really being a competitive DPS, but it's like they're designed so that you heal, but you also do a little bit of damage. And to me, that just that simple statement makes me instantly interested in the class, because I've just always loved hybrids like that. Well, maybe not always, but for the last couple of years, I mean, I've just been so into that kind of hybrid play. Like, I love the Bard in Rift, and the whole thing about the Bard, if you haven't played Rift, is Bards are like a healer DPS mix. Like, their big thing is they use this ability called Cadence, where it's kind of like a channeled combo builder, because Bards work a lot like rogues in World of Warcraft. They're a rogue class in Rift, but so they use Cadence. It's almost like a Mind Flay, actually, where I guess it doesn't have a slow, but it's a channeled kind of nuke, and you gain combo points, but you also heal everyone around you for based on the amount of damage you do. So like the more damage you do, the more you heal everyone, and that just sounds awesome. That's the kind of thing that I love. That and like the old school Shadow Priest model, or I mean, my priest, I leveled up to level 70. Yeah, level 70 as a Shadow Priest, and then did a bunch of healing that I absolutely hated, but that's neither here nor there. And then I never played him until whatever. I didn't really play him until Cataclysm. I basically leveled all the way from 70 to 85, doing nothing but atonement healing dungeons, which atonement is, of course, the mechanic where, you smite an enemy and you heal a nearby friend. And Pandarians are, not Pandarians, but monks, sound like they have that kind of concept is really kind of integral to how they at least want to make monks work. Like, they haven't really talked about monks a whole lot, but one of the abilities that they did reveal that you learn at a very early level is called like Jade Dragon Statue or something like that. And the whole idea is like you drop down a statue, and you can place 3 of them. You can place them wherever, and then whenever you deal damage, those statues will heal an ally that is near them. So you could, put a statue behind the tank, put a statue in the melee stack, and put a statue in the range stack or something, and start punching the boss, and you're healing everyone at once. And something like that just seems really awesome to me, and kind of like exactly what I'm looking for. I mean, I wouldn't expect that they are going to be able to make the monk as hybridized as I would like, just because I think it would probably cause balancing issues. But it sounds really promising to me. And then they talked a bit about also how they want the monk to be kind of more like they're really trying to get away from the healing models for the monk, at least, of sit there and click on bars and hit the heal button. So that they kind of said that they want to make the monk, or at least one of their ideas for the monk is to have them more like positional, kind of like the Jade Dragon statue or whatever it's called. It's like your healing is based on your position rather than who you're targeting. So it could be something like even like the Paladin's Light of Dawn. It's like a cone heal in front of you, or I guess the Paladin's also, well, Holy Radiance, at least the way it works now, not the way it's working in 4.3, or even Holy Explosion. It's like an AoE heal. Bleh, I can't talk today. An AoE heal around you, so positional stuff like that. And I think that combined with the whole no auto attack thing, and the whole like you have to hit stuff, you have no auto attack, and you have positional requirements. I think that would all combine to make some really awesome gameplay. So I'm pretty psyched about the monk. But I guess that's about all I really have to say about the monk, just because there isn't a whole lot that they've really announced about it so far. So now I suppose I should move on to the talent system, because it's being completely reworked. Well, almost completely. So their concept for the talent system is that talents should be a choice and should all be about kind of making your character different from the character beside you, who is the same class and same spec as you. So they're trying to make everything more like flavor. They tried revamping Cataclysm, and it did work to a degree, but they're kind of taking a completely different angle on it. So everything they're basically rebuilding from the ground up. So let's start from the ground up. So to begin with, at level 10, you choose your spec, just like you would now. And at that point, you get your like class or spec-specific ability, your like iconic ability, like your Mortal Strike and your Avenger Shield and stuff like that. And then from then on, you have 3 different types of abilities. You have class abilities, which is abilities that everyone from that class learns. Which I guess would be stuff like buffs, like Fortitude or Pally Blessings and stuff like that. And I'm sure there's other stuff there too, but they didn't really give super good examples for that. The second thing you get, so you get your class abilities, and then you get your spec abilities. And spec abilities, I think, are a very important thing to talk about, because spec abilities are literally abilities that are used by your spec. So rather than kind of teaching everyone every ability, they're trying to be very a lot more careful about what abilities they teach everyone. So the example they gave was Warlocks. Like, how many different nukes do they need? So you take a spell like Immolate, and Affliction never uses Immolate. I guess Demonology uses Immolate, but they might change that. So they want Immolate to be a destruction ability, so they only teach it to destruction warlocks. It's not like Affliction and Demonology just doesn't have to worry about it. I think that's pretty awesome. I mean, they did say that they can teach spec abilities to multiple specs. Like they mentioned Judgment, where it'd be something that they give protection and retribution, but not holy. And I think that it's a pretty cool idea, because it's a really good way of kind of freeing up the action bar of a lot of classes. I don't know. I guess even for pure classes, it would work pretty good. I mean, Warlocks is one of their prime examples. So as you're leveling up, you learn your class abilities, you learn your spec abilities, and you learn those automatically. Like, you don't have to go to a trainer anymore to learn those. They just kind of pop into your spellbook when you hit the appropriate level. And then you have your talents. And talents are like, just throw your concept of what a talent tree is completely out the window. So their design now for talents is you only get 6 of them. You learn a talent every 15 levels, but rather than having like this tree of like, you know, I take 5 points here, and then I could take 5 points here, and then 3 points here, and 2 points here. There's no more tree, so to speak. There's no more talent points. You learn a new talent every 15 levels, and every time you get a choice out of 3 talents. So you kind of have 6 tiers, and you get to choose 1 out of each tier. So you choose 6 out of 18 total abilities. And they specifically made it so that you're not choosing like, okay, well, I'm a DPS, so I should choose the DPS ability. They made it so that every tier is made up of similar abilities, and you just kind of choose which one suits your playstyle best. So, probably a good example is the Paladin Tier 1. You have 3 movement abilities. There's Speed of Light, which, you know, obviously a lot of abilities they're kind of revamping to fit this new system, but Speed of Light is basically like a sprint where you also kind of heal everyone around you. A lot like it works today, but it's more focused on, I think, the speed boost. Or you have Long Arm of the Law, which is basically very similar to what it is today, where, you know, you judge something and you get a speed boost. And then you have Pursuit of Justice, where you have a flat movement speed increase. So it's like all 3 talents are there, but you can only choose one of them. So which one do you pick? Do you pick the always there, slightly faster movement? Do you pick the movement cooldown that gives you a large burst of speed every so often? Or do you choose the fairly frequent speed boost where, you know, it's not quite as significant as the cooldown based one, but it's up a lot more? And that's kind of what they're trying to do with every tier. It's like they take a concept like mobility, survivability, throughput, whatever, and they try and give you 3 equal options to kind of determine which one you want. And I think it's a very interesting system. I mean, I think it's definitely going to offer a lot of balancing changes, and I think I'm kind of interested to see how the numbers work, like with this new talent system, because talents have always been a really big focus of talents has been like, you need these talents to do your job, but they're completely flipping that on your head, where like, if you just don't have any talents, you can still do your job, but these talents are going to make your job and your life a lot easier, and you get to choose how you go about that. And I think turning talents totally into kind of a choice system where every choice is theoretically equal, I think that's pretty awesome. I mean, there's something to be said about, you know, only having 6 choices. 1 choice every 15 levels is kind of lame. But I think there's a lot of possibility, because, I mean, every single talent that they kind of demonstrated, I mean, of course, none of the ideas that they have yet they're far from final. I mean, they're not even implemented in a game sense yet. The game is not in alpha or anything like that. But I think there's a lot of potential there. I'm really interested to see where it goes. So, I mean, I guess those are all kind of the big things that they're doing. So I guess now there's just kind of a slew of kind of little things that they're doing. So they have kind of 2 new kind of game modes that they are implementing that I wouldn't say they go hand in hand, but they're kind of, you could probably put them in the same category. So they have scenarios and they have dungeon challenge modes, which these are two different things, of course. So scenarios are, I feel like they're very much inspired by kind of like communal quests in like Warhammer, and to a degree the upcoming Guild Wars 2. The idea for a scenario is it's kind of like a mix between a group quest and a dungeon. Like, it's not designed to be run by a dungeon. Like, you don't need like a tank, a healer, and a DPS. It's designed for a small number of people. They didn't really say a range, but they said like 3. So I would say 3 to 5 people probably. And it's not like a dungeon. It's not like you walk a hallway, clear some trash, kill a boss. It's specifically they said it's a new way. It's a way of presenting a new style of PvE PvE content, kind of like the group quests. So their idea for the scenarios is it's like a stage experience. So you have like a goal, like maybe kill 50 guys. And these scenarios are supposed to take place in like recognizable areas out in the world, but they make it like a contained environment. So it could be like there was a data mining a while ago about the scenario Alcaz Island. So that's probably going to be a scenario, maybe, I don't know. And they referenced like something about Gilneas, I think. So, but you might have a scenario where it's like kill 50 guys, then escort a bunch of people from one spot to another, and then when you get there, kill a boss. But they also, which I mean, that's kind of a little bit lame. It's just kind of like seems like a string of quests that you happen to be doing with multiple people. But they also mentioned some interesting stuff with like PvE battlegrounds, where it's like you have to retrieve a certain number of resources or something, and you're fighting against like an endless wave of NPCs or something like that. I think there's a lot of potential in the scenario idea, because coming up with kind of new and interesting ways to play the PvE game, I think if Blizzard is creative enough, which I mean, I give them credit that I think they are, to be able to pull it off. I think they could add some really interesting stuff to the game with this. And scenarios are actually one thing that made me happy is that they said that scenarios could probably be something that replaces group quests. And personally, I've always hated group quests, but at the same time, leveling feels a little weird just not having any of them, because like really you don't have group quests anymore. But this, I think, like this is something that I feel like I would be excited to do. And they said the scenarios are going to be something that you can queue up for, much the same way you can do with the Dungeon Finder now. So that kind of makes it easy and accessible for you to do, and not only for you to do, but for you to find other people to do it with. Especially if it's cross-realm. So I think that scenarios have a lot of potential. And the next up is the Dungeon Challenge mode. And this is a lot like it sounds, actually. It's quite literally a challenge mode dungeon. It's the same dungeon that you know and love, or maybe don't love, but it's the dungeons that you're familiar with. And it's pretty much just a time trial. But there's a little bit more to it than that. So it's basically, you're just running a normal dungeon, but your goal is to do it as quickly as possible. But also, their whole concept for this is that everything should be normalized. So it doesn't matter if you have, the most up-to-date, highest tier heroic gear, or if you have, like, I don't know, leveling greens. If you're running a dungeon challenge mode, you should have the exact same capabilities as anyone else running that same challenge mode. So it's like imagine if you're running a current, like, I don't know, Grim Batol. Say you're running Grim Batol. It's kind of like they would take everyone who runs Grim Batol challenge mode and normalize it across the board so that everyone's gear is item level 333. And the idea here is that they're making it a challenge, so the challenge is to clear the instance quickly, but they're also making it so that it's not a challenge that you can outgear. It's like everyone has the same chance, and so it's a demonstration of skill more than, well, skill and coordination more than anything else. And I think that's pretty interesting on its own, but they're also kind of taking it a step further, and they're saying, you know, the idea for this is giving you a challenge and, you know, measuring your skill, but also like they want there to be like leaderboards and bragging rights and stuff like that. So there's like different tiers of medals that you can earn depending on your performance. I don't know if it's a matter of, you know, you get a different medal depending on how quickly you go, or you run a dungeon and you're challenging a specific tier medal, like you're challenging the bronze medal, and it's like you have to clear this dungeon this time, whereas if you're challenging the silver medal, the challenge is a little bit quicker or something like that. I'm not quite sure how that works, but I mean, that's not really important. And you can do stuff like if you clear if you've accomplished certain dungeon challenge mode achievements, like clearing, getting a gold medal or something, or getting a gold medal for a series of dungeons or something like that, then you get, like, how did they phrase it? Awesome gear with no stats or something like that. Basically cosmetic stuff for transmogrification purposes, to make you look awesome and prove that you have skill to the world. And this whole concept to me is pretty interesting, because I mean, it's something to do. It's a way of really measuring your skill and kind of challenging yourself without going to the extent of doing like 25-man hardcore raiding or anything like that. And I think there's a lot that, like, it could offer a lot for the average player to do. Maybe not the average player, but like a player like me, at least. They even mentioned that they're thinking that maybe after you clear the gold dungeons, or earn the gold medal, you can go for like consecutive runs or something. Maybe not consecutive, that might not be the right word, but like subsequent runs, you can improve the difficulty. So it's like you have the same time constraint, but your gear level is reduced by 5% or something like that. So it's like you're going for the same goal, but you're making it a little bit harder on yourself. It's kind of like prestige challenge mode. But anyways, I think I've talked about enough about challenge mode. So the next big feature is the pet battle system. So I want to say the pet battle system is a little bit silly, but let me just kind of talk about what it is first. Basically, the pet battle system is quite literally turning non-combat pets into Pokemon in World of Warcraft. Pretty much just straight up. So like your pets, you get like a little collection thing where you can view all your pets and see like they have stats and they learn abilities and they level up and stuff like that now. And you can, you know, encounter combat pets out in the world, and you can capture them and stuff like that, and you can battle other people with your pets. You can fight like NPCs or other players. You build a team of 3 pets that you can use, and you can customize their moveset. You can travel across the world and fight pet masters, and these pet masters specialize in a specific type of pet. And if you beat them, you can like learn a special ability that you can teach your pets and stuff like that. It's pretty much, you know, to the T Pokemon in World of Warcraft. And this is a little silly. I mean, I'm kind of excited about it because I think it's something that's just kind of really fun and lighthearted to add into the game that I mean, I like Pokemon, but I think it's the kind of thing where it's like the people who like it, they're probably gonna like it a lot, and the people who don't like it, like they're just not gonna do it. It's not something that someone's gonna say like, "Oh, this is stupid. I'm gonna quit the game." So I think it's something that's really actually smart to add to the game because, I mean, for one, I don't really think it would take a whole lot of effort to actually implement. I mean, if they just give a couple guys the job of implementing this and give them, between now and release, I think that'd be just fine. And it's kind of going back to the idea of giving people something to do, and I think that's pretty awesome. I mean, hell, I'll cart my team of non-combat. I guess you can't even call them non-combat pets anymore because they fight. But I guess it's I'll cart my companion pets all around the world and challenge all the different pet masters and stuff. Seems neat to me. I'll be glad to have like a level 99 little Ragnaros. And that more or less wraps up kind of the feature list. One other thing that they have here, I'm kind of looking at the Miss Pandaria page on Wikipedia for reference here, but one of the other things that's here that I think is really important is account-wide achievements. Actually, one thing I didn't mention is that pets are going to be account-wide too. So making the transition to account-wide stuff is, I think, really important. And it's huge because, I mean, maybe I'm kind of over feeling like it's more important than it is, but here's kind of my thought process here. So they're playing the Mists of Pandaria trailer. They're introducing the expansion, telling me all this stuff. Hey, you can play Pandaria, and hey, you can play monks. And they're telling me all about the monk, and I'm thinking, geez, I'm gonna have to re-roll. I'm gonna be playing a Pandaren monk in Mists of Pandaria, but like, I spent all this time, like, my main has over 10,000 achievement points. I have like 130 pets or something like that. Like, I don't want to do all that again. Oh, hey, it's all account-wide now. That's awesome. So, I mean, for something like that, I mean, I think it's definitely... I mean, it doesn't seem like that big a deal, but for someone like me, I think it definitely is, because, I mean, not even just for, re-rolling a new main. Like, I've done that several times. I was a rogue in Classic and part of Burning Crusade. I switched to a Paladin for the remainder of Burning Crusade. I switched to a Death Knight when Lich King came out. I played that for maybe half a year. Okay, not half a year, but like 3 or 4 months. Then I switched to Enhancement Shaman for a while. Then I switched back to my Paladin. Now I'm gonna switch to a Monk again. But even just for your alts, like, they already have some stuff where it's like, if you buy a pet off of the Blizzard store, it goes to your entire account and stuff like that. But being able to have all of your pets and... well, no, I don't think it's all of your pets, but most of your pets and, your achievements and all that on all of your characters, I think it's just really cool, because it's always kind of a little bit disheartening going from your main that has 10,000 achievement points to your kind of neglected, like, I leveled this character up and then never did anything with them, who has like 200 achievement points. That's always kind of lame. But yeah. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that I could talk about with Mists of Pandaria. I mean, it's saying flying mounts, like, you can't fly in Pandaria until you're at max level, so while you're leveling through the zones, you have to go you have to go on foot. And there's other stuff like, you can trade most companion pets now, and there's a whole bunch of little stuff like that, but I think I've kind of talked about Mists of Pandaria enough at this point, and I've kind of covered the key features. All in all, I mean, I'm I'm really excited about Miss Pandaria. I mean, I think I'm kind of a sucker for, you know, basically anything that Blizzard ever announces. I'm kind of a Blizzard fanboy. But I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff to be legitimately excited about with Miss Pandaria. I think some people are probably going to be a little bit disheartened with, like, they're introducing some kind of silly stuff that's kind of lighthearted, but I mean, I'm perfectly fine with that. And I don't think the gaming world is going to be that upset if all of the like super hardcore diehards just kind of take a pass on Miss Pandaria. But I mean, I'm personally really excited. I think they have a lot of good ideas, and if they do play their game right, I mean, I think they could go a really long way.